Oh, hang on. I'm on Zoom, not my slides. There we go. All right. So what is pretexting and social engineering? So pretexting is creating a fabricated scenario to manipulate your target. So this is your background story for your persona. It needs to be believable and crafted with your target in mind to build trust with them so that you can build a strong rapport. The purpose is to gain access to unauthorized information and impersonate individuals generally in a position of authority or trust. So think of the beginning of a spy movie. They get the dossier and their fake passports. It tells them who they are, who they have to be. This is your time to create that. So how does it work? So we start with researching the target as Juan he talked about. You do OSCENT on them, look up public records, and then we develop a plausible pretext and persona, so your identity and backstory. Great opportunity to use AI to get that built for you. And after that, we execute the plan. We send our phishing emails, we make the phone call, or we show up to the company and try to break in. After that, we get our information and then we get out as quickly as we can, hopefully without leaving a trace. So, principles of pretexting, the more research you do, the better the chance of success. Same here as in life and in school. If you study more for the test, you'll probably do better on the test. Um, Involving your own personal interests will increase the chance of success. If you can put a little bit of yourself in your pretext and persona, it makes it a lot easier to embody that character, right? It's a lot easier to tweak a little bit of details and tell mostly the truth than it is to outright lie. Practice your dialects and expressions, right? If you are somebody from the UK, please don't talk like me when we're on the phone. We will have questions about that. And if you're claiming to be from a certain area, make sure you do some background research on that area. Um, Using phones to reduce the effort, so you can have multiple phones, like text each other in bet while you're doing the actual phone calls. Simpler the better, right? If you have to remember 2 million details, the likelihood of you forgetting something or tripping up while you're going through drastically increases. It should appear spontaneous, so when you show up with this pretext, it shouldn't seem like this is a scripted out event. And make sure you have an exit strategy. Have an end goal, or if you don't reach your end goal, have a plan to follow up with the target, right? If you run out of time on the call, make sure that you can exit the call and set up a future interaction. So the five W's of pretexting, the who, what, when, where, and why. So who will be involved on your end? Who's making the call? Who are you going to be? Who is your target? And who else can you involve to provide social proof? So if you research your target, you know who their friends are, you know who their family is. You can add more information and say, oh, your brother told me about this, or I bumped into your boss at Acme or the grocery store. What are you working on that would be of interest in your target? Why should your target spend their time talking to you? What's your hook? When do you want a response or when do you want action from them by? Have this thought out, right? Generally, one of our principles is like quickly. So if you can create a sense of urgency, it's always very helpful when thinking about the when. Where do you want to connect with your target? Are you doing this online? Are you doing in person? That's two very different plans of attack. And why would the target want to connect with and work with you? Like we said, not just the hook, like a fully planned out reason for like, okay, like my target is in marketing. I have a great product or I have an ad campaign. What's their reason for spending the time talking to you, right? It has to be both believable and lucrative. So they have to believe who you are, that you are who you say you are, and they have to also believe that they are going to get something out of talking to you. So the do's and don'ts for pretexting. Do's, absolutely research your target thoroughly, gather information about them, their friends, and then also gather information about gather information about yourself. Where are you coming from? Who's your mother? Who's your brother? Create like a full story for the character you plan on embodying. The more lived in you can make that character feel, the more believable that character is. Use professional language. Um, so generally, it's always good to start off as professional and then adapt that language to the response we give you. If you start professional and we respond in like a very casual, friendly way, then it's good. Like match us with that. Be casual, be friendly, talk to us, you know, build a rapport. If we start professional and come out angry, maybe don't match the anger, but like try to respond to what we're giving you. Um, don't don't exaggerate or lie. If you obviously like we are kind of lying through this whole process, but as I said, the more believable and like the more truthful to yourself you can make your character, the easier this will be, and the more believable it will be. Um, don't say anything that is easily disprovable. If you say, I'm the CEO of Microsoft, and I can Google and say, oh, that is not the name of the person who runs Microsoft, don't do anything that's easily disprovable. Don't do anything quickly Googleable. Um, and don't ignore red flags. Be vigilant. So watch how we're responding. If we're being hesitant or if we're giving you skepticism, don't just try to brush past that. Your target will notice you trying to do that. And if they need further reassurance, you want to make sure that you can provide that reassurance to the best of your ability. So narrative consistency. So when you're doing improv, the scene falls apart if the story becomes inconsistent. If you've ever watched bad improv on YouTube, which I highly recommend you do, it's funny in a very special way. If you are going with a story of being a vendor, and then midway through the call you're like, this guy doesn't really want to talk to this vendor. I'm gonna be an astronaut. We're gonna notice that. Your target will notice that. You have to be consistent. Even if it doesn't seem like it's working, don't throw away your persona. Find a way to adapt to make that work. Um, and pretexts often fail when the details don't align, right? So if you have a more scattered or not put together pretext, it needs to be a mini narrative. You're telling us a story. So you also have to make sure that story has logical consistency and flow. Um, you want to make sure that the role matches the context. Your organization needs to sound semi-plausible. The timeline makes sense, and what you are saying matches industry jargon. So what are personas? We talked about the pretext. What are the personas? A persona is a fictional identity or character that attackers craft to carry out social engineering attacks, right? Our pretexts are our background story. Our personas are the person we're playing in that story. Uh, it makes the pretext more credible and it makes the pretext more credible by using well-researched details. This is your moment to exploit that trust, that authority, that urgency. Um, some common archetypes we see for personas. So an authority figure could be a manager, law enforcement, IT staff, someone who is knowledgeable and has definitive say on whatever the subject matter is. Peer or colleague. So another employee, a business partner, someone who's the same as you, right? We like to make friends and talk with people who are like us. a third-party vendor or entity, so vendors, contractors, service providers. This is very good way to create someone. It immediately creates that, what can you do for me, right? It provides more reason for us to be talking to you in that moment, and it gives you a very useful hook. I can make you more money. Um, so the five W's of personas. So who are you? What's your gender, race, ethnicity, age, education, name? Um, what are your likes, dislikes? Where'd you go to college? Come up with a full story for yourself. What do you do? What's your job? Do you like hiking? Um, if you live in Arizona, how do you feel about the heat? What's your job title? And what sort of skills do you have? When did you start working at your company? And also, how do you like working at your company? Are you a recent hire? And that's why your name doesn't appear on the website, or have you made a fake website and you're the VP of sales and marketing? Where do you work? Are you in person? Are you remote? Is your company based in Ohio, but you're based out of California? Um, and why does that work with or why should your persona work? Are you building credibility, trustworthiness, and authority? Why should I trust that you are who you say you are? Things to consider with this is phrasing when you're typing, if you're submitting a vish or submitting some sort of proof of who you are, make sure the typeface looks professional, come up with logos, and if you are going to be signing something, make sure you practice a signature. Do's and don'ts for personas. So the do's, develop detailed backgrounds, create a rich, believable backstory for the persona. Again, the more lived in your persona feels, the more believable it is. It's kind of like a method acting opportunity, right? You want to be the person who you say you are being and adapt to the target. Um, Make sure that your personality matches the characteristics that you find out about in your target during OSINT. If your target loves hiking, maybe you're a nature enthusiast. If your target is a cooking fan or a food snob or a foodie, have some recommendations for restaurants. Uh, Don'ts. Don't use sensitive information carelessly. Respect privacy boundaries and avoid the inappropriate use of personal data. If you accidentally let slip, um, if you accidentally show your cards a little bit too much and that you have detailed information about a target, that can make that target feel like they are being stalked online, instead of just happening to meet someone who shares interests with them. And don't create contradictory personas. So if you have two personas for your engagement planned out, make sure that those personas align with the backstories you come up with. Status and power dynamics. So improv actors often play with what's called status. Status refers to your relative power or authority between characters in a scene. So if you have a two-man improv, one man is the boss, one man is the lead, the other person is going to follow that other person's lead. Um, the high status character often has a confident tone, slow, direct speech, and the display of low status is often more like an apologetic tone. They're asking more questions. They want permission for what they're going to be doing. Social engineers use this exact concept when they are designing personas. What's important is that your status level matches the role that you have created for yourself. If you're going to be a junior employee, but you're speaking like you've been the executive of this company for 5 years, that mismatch can create suspicion. A good social engineer is going to carefully calibrate how you're speaking, how confident you're sounding, and even how deferential you're appearing to your target. So, how these pretexts and personas work together. So, as I said, your pretext is the scenario or the story for why you're reaching out to your target or engaging with your target. A very common one is that I work IT for your company and we need your credentials for some maintenance. The character or identity is who that character who's doing the reaching out, who lives in that part of your story. Are you an IT technician? You can be an HR rep, and like we talked about, third-party vendors, a new VP. You want to make sure that these are fully integrated into your approach. So your persona should enhance your pretext, and your pretext should be enhancing your persona. They work together. The more detailed research you can do on both your pretext and persona, the more believable you will be, and the easier it is to foster trust and get your target to lower their defenses. Emotional phrasing. So emotions play a huge role both for improv and social engineering. In improv, as we talked about, the emotional tone kind of guides the direction of a scene. Actors might introduce urgency or frustration or excitement to really shape how the scene is going to develop. In the same way, social engineers intentionally trigger emotions because emotions can have an impact on your decision-making process. Some of the most common emotional triggers include urgency. This needs to happen yesterday. Get on it. ASAP, stat. Authority. I'm your boss. This needs to be done. Someone important is telling you you need to do something. Fear. Something bad is going to happen if you don't take action on this right now. The IRS is going to send out an officer to arrest you if you don't immediately pay your back taxes and Target gift cards. Um, Helpfulness. We as human beings have a natural inclination to try to help others, and it feels good to help other people. The target's going to feel like they're assisting someone. And curiosity. Human beings are curiosity by nature as well. And you want to make sure that your target wants to know more information, draw them in further. So the important lesson here is that social engineering interactions aren't just about getting information. It's about emotionally influencing your target to reach your desired objective or goal. And talking a little bit more about improv, if you've ever taken an improv class or seen anything about it or heard anything about it, a very common one we hear is the yes and principle. Um, so the concept is that yes and continues the scene, right? You're accepting what your partner says and building on it. Saying no or contradicting someone can break the flow of the scene. Social engineering interactions work in a very similar manner. Attackers are rarely going to be arguing or contradicting their target. Instead, they accept the information that they're given and try to incorporate that information into their story. The yes and mindset really allows attackers to adapt to the situation as the situation's happening while still maintaining trust. So, listening and situational awareness. So for improv, actors need to actively listen and respond in real time. While you want to do a lot of background research and sort of be prepared for any potential scenario, you don't want to have an actual script. A script is only going to take you so far. Successful attackers pay very, very close attention to the signals that they're getting from their targets. Improv actors are trained to do the exact same thing. They have to actively listen to their scene partner. They need to respond in real time. And in social engineering interactions, attackers will look for signals like hesitation in someone's voice, repeated verification questions, any changes in tone if they sound like they're getting frustrated, or signs of confusion or skepticism. So these signals will help an attacker decide whether they want to continue the interaction, if they want to adjust their story a little bit. change their approach, or if things are gone beyond any repair, exit the interaction as quickly and believably as possible. So listening isn't just about hearing what the target is saying. You're not just listening to their words. It's about reading their cues and adapting according to those cues. How do we recover from mistakes? In acting and life, you will make mistakes. When that happens, the worst thing you can do is hesitate or panic. That shows that you are uncertain. Instead, attackers often will reframe or explain forward. The idea here is that recovery should feel natural and confident, not defensive. Improv teaches people to treat these mistakes and opportunities as an opportunity to redirect the story. That mindset translates directly onto social engineering. Um, so, right, when you do mess up, rather than saying like, "Oh no, like I've ruined that," it's an opportunity for you to adapt. If your target was showing some hesitation and you accidentally have a little bit of an issue there, this is your opportunity to change your plan and move forward, still gaining new information or moving on. So, environmental awareness. Improv actors often use environments or props, right? They set the scene, and if the scene is a grocery store, maybe they have some fake fruit. In social engineering, and social engineers use like office context, jargon, visible artifacts, and timing, meetings, deadlines, sell-by dates. The context increases the realism. So, for example, an attacker might reference like a company announcements, scheduled meetings, ongoing projects, or visible equipment systems, and they will definitely be using industry terminology. So these context details signal familiarity with the environment, and this environmental awareness is going to be coming from your OSINT research. That's where you're going to be gathering the context details ahead of time. And these little details, having them can really enhance your believability. Micro commits. So social engineering another similarity between improv and social engineering is the idea of building these interactions gradually. In improv, characters rarely jump directly into the climax of the scene. They build tension step by step. Social engineers follow a similar pattern through what we call micro commitments. Instead of asking for sensitive information, usually they'll start with a harmless question. And it could be as simple as, "How is your day going?" The second you ask that question, the target generally starts feeding you information. Each step will feel small and reasonable, but together they guide the target towards sharing more and more information. And these incremental steps really make the interaction feel natural and overall less suspicious. Confidence and delivery. So, um, improv actors are taught to commit fully to their targets and the character, or fully commit to their characters. Even a ridiculous scene, no matter how crazy or zany it is, can feel believable if the actor is performing it with confidence. Social engineering is the exact same way. Delivery matters way more than the words that you're using. Things that can influence your credibility are your tone of voice, your pacing, hesitation, clarity, and use of filler words. We don't want to be saying and like. Confidence signals legitimacy. Hesitation often is going to trigger suspicion. Oh, that wants to move. There we go. And your exit strategy. So in improv, scenes will end naturally. They're not going to suddenly stop talking in the middle of the scene and run off stage. Uh, Social engineering actions should end the same way. Even if attackers don't get everything that they wanted, you want to make a graceful exit in an attempt to preserve the relationship and avoid raising suspicion. A smooth exit can help keep the interaction feeling professional and routine. An awkward or an abrupt ending can make the target reflect on the conversation, and it makes them more likely to realize something was wrong or something bad happened. If possible, you never ever want to end with like an awkward ending. Some simple exit strategies include like, okay, like I'll send a follow-up email. Thanks, that's everything that I needed. We should be okay with this. We can call back later to reschedule and simply just I'll coordinate with your manager.